We are in Cirencester, what is known as the capital of the Cotswolds. The Cotswolds is kind of deemed to be one of the areas that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex could well be moving to as they head back to the UK in the next week or so. Lots of reasons for why this area might be appropriate. Not only that Meghan knows a lot of some of the celebrities that are of course famous for living in these parts, no less the likes of Ellen DeGeneres, but also with the locations for Prince Harry, if he is to make any reconciliations with the likes of His Majesty the King, Highgrove not too far away. So ideally, the Cotswolds could be a perfect location for them to return to. But we're here in Cirencester in the middle of this market today because, of course, one of the things that we know Meghan did as one of her things out in America was, as ever, her range of jams and different kind of goods. So let's speak to a market stall trader, shall we, about all of this. Gregory Davis is the owner of Auntie's Sauces. Fantastic stall, I must say, that you've got here.
Thank you.
Just initially, what do you kind of make to all of this about Meghan and Harry kind of coming back to the UK?
I think it's great. Nice that they're coming back to the UK. What about America anymore?
What about the Cotswolds?
Oh, the Cotswolds. Yeah, it's great for the Cotswolds. It'd be great for everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, tell us a little bit then about your stall, about some of your businesses and stuff.
So we are a manufacturer of sauces, pickles, and Indian street snacks. They're all based on my wife's grandmother's recipes, who was Auntie. Unfortunately, she passed away last year, but she was an integral member of the business. So we produce traditional Punjabi, North Indian snacks and condiments.
Can we have a taste? Is that all right?
Of course. This is one of our Indian crisps with our tamarind sauce.
So what is an Indian crisp?
An Indian
different?
crisp is basically it's wheat flour, carom seed and salt, deep fried. So it's the best bit of Bombay mix.
That is
crispy,
really good.
Delicious, very good.
So what is in that?
In the crisp?
Yeah.
So it's basically, it has just wheat flour, carom seed, salt, that's it, and it's deep fried.
Perfect. Now, we know that Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, went into jams, reportedly sold more than £1 million worth of jams.
Wow.
If they come to the Cotswolds, are you at risk? Do you think Meghan and our different artisanal goods could put a risk to your business?
No. I think it would be good. I think she could have a stall here. Bring her down.
So you think Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, on a stall in Cirencester? Let's make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. It would do wonders for the market. It would bring more people down, wouldn't it?
Would you pay £30 for a jam?
Yeah, I would, yeah, if it was really good.
Okay, lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Gregory, for joining us and giving us a taste. To tell you what, these are seriously good. So there you go. Not much necessarily of a threat from Meghan if she was to move to the Cotswolds with her different artisanal goods. Of course, we know the latest really on all of this is what we're getting from the newspapers this morning is that the Duke of Sussex is pleading with the Home Secretary for kind of confirmation on exactly what is happening with the security arrangements. Lots of people, including a YouGov poll, 2/3 of which of people in the UK say they don't really care at all what happens with Harry and Meghan, but I think the dividing line, Dawn, is very much what happens with the taxpayer funding sense of security. So those answers shortly we'd expect to come out in the next week or so. But here in Cirencester, certainly no threat from Meghan and her different artisanal goods quite yet.
Squaddies, sit down, because I need you to appreciate the sheer comedy of what just happened. The British press, the same press that has spent nearly a decade telling you Meghan is difficult, that she's not really one of us, that she's some kind of reputational hazard wherever she goes, just did something so telling I almost couldn't believe it when I saw the footage. They sent an actual camera crew out to the Cotswolds, to a market town called Cirencester, for one reason, and one reason only, to go digging for dirt on a jam stand. I want you to sit with that for a second. Not a policy story, not a court case, not even a real news event. A reporter, a microphone, and a mission to find one single local trader willing to say something, anything, negative about the idea of Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, possibly living nearby one day. That's the assignment. That's what UK royal journalism has been reduced to. And squaddies, they failed. They failed spectacularly. Stick around, because I'm going to walk you through exactly how this went down, what it tells us about the Rota's real agenda, and why, once again, the public reaction online is running miles ahead of what the papers want you to believe. So here's the backdrop. With chatter building that Harry and Meghan could be spending more time in the UK in the coming weeks. The tabloid machine immediately went into speculation overdrive about where they might end up. And the name that kept surfacing was the Cotswolds, the picture postcard patchwork of honeystone villages that's become a magnet for celebrities looking for privacy without total isolation. The logic the broadcaster gave for the Cotswolds theory wasn't even subtle. They pointed out that Meghan already has social ties to people who live in that part of the country, public figures who've made the area their base. They also floated the idea that geographic proximity to Highgrove, King Charles's longtime Gloucestershire residence, could make reconciliation easier if a thaw between father and son is genuinely on the table. Now, notice what's happening here already. The same commentators who spent years insisting Harry had irreparably burned every bridge with his family are now casually reporting that a location near his father's house would be strategically useful for reconciliation. Which one is it? You can't have it both ways. Either the relationship is beyond repair, in which case geography is irrelevant, or there's a real possibility of rebuilding it, in which case maybe, just maybe, the estranged forever narrative you've been sold for years was always a little overcooked. Here's where it gets almost funny. The crew's actual excuse for being in Cirencester wasn't the housing market or security logistics. It was jam. Specifically, Meghan's homemade preserves, the ones she famously produced and gifted as part of her American lifestyle brand, reportedly moving well over £1 million worth of product by some estimates. The framing from the broadcaster was basically, if Meghan moves here and starts selling her jams locally, could that threaten the livelihoods of the small traders already working these markets? That's the premise. That's the entire justification for putting a reporter on a train to Gloucestershire. So they walk up to a stallholder, a man running a family business built on his late mother-in-law's traditional Punjabi recipes, the kind of small, proud, generational British business that actually deserves the spotlight. And they ask him, essentially, are you scared of Meghan? And Squaddies, the man just wasn't. He said it plainly. It would be great if the Sussexes came back to the UK. He said the Cotswolds would benefit. He even joked that Meghan should get her own stall right there in the market, that it would be good for foot traffic, good for the whole town. When they asked if he'd pay real money for one of her jams, he didn't hesitate. Of course he would, if it was good. There was no fear, no resentment, no keep her out of my market energy that the story clearly wanted. What they got instead was warmth, humour, and a straightforward answer that the arrival of Meghan would be a net positive for a small town's economy. That's not the segment they went looking for. That's the segment reality handed them, and to their credit they aired it anyway, because even they couldn't spin a no comment into controversy. But here's what really gets me, and this is where I want you to pay close attention, because it's the same trick the Rota pulls constantly. Buried at the tail end of that same segment, almost as an afterthought, the reporter mentions that the Duke of Sussex is currently in discussions with the Home Secretary about security arrangements, a serious, unresolved, practical issue that actually affects whether this family can safely spend meaningful time in Britain at all. That's the real story. That's the one with actual stakes. And it gets maybe 15 seconds at the end of a segment that spent 3 minutes on jam. Why? Because royal family intense negotiation over state protection doesn't fit the cartoon villain narrative nearly as well as smiling reporter finds nothing bad to say. The Rota would rather give you market gossip than sit with the uncomfortable truth, that a genuine unresolved question about safety is still hanging over whether Harry, Meghan and their children can move freely in their own birth country. That's not a light human interest beat. That's a policy failure with real consequences for two small kids. And they know it. They mentioned a poll claiming most of the British public doesn't care what happens to Harry and Meghan, and then, almost immediately, admitted the one thing people genuinely do care about is whether taxpayer money is on the hook for security. Which, again, tells you the disinterest narrative is doing a lot of heavy lifting to disguise the fact that this is still unmistakably news. Now, let's talk about what was happening online while all this aired, because, as usual, you squaddies were 10 steps ahead of the professionals. Underneath the original post about the segment, one really sharp comment stood out. A reminder that Harry and Meghan never actually cut ties with the UK the way the tabloids love to claim. Their charitable work, Invictus, Wellchild and beyond, has kept a communications and staffing presence in Britain the entire time. They stepped back from royal duties. They did not disappear. There's a difference, and it's one the press conveniently forgets every single time a will they, won't they return story needs a fresh news cycle. Other commenters pointed to the deeper grievance underneath all of this, the loss of Frogmore Cottage. More than one person made the point plainly. If the family hadn't been pushed out of the one proper home base they had in the UK, this entire will they relocate to the Cotswolds guessing game might not even exist. It's worth sitting with that. A lot of the manufactured drama around where will they live only exists because a home was taken away in the first place. And then there was the simplest, warmest reaction of all. Just plain excitement. People saying straightforwardly that Archie and Lily deserve to know their extended family, that this is good news, full stop, no asterisk required, no cynicism, no but what about, just genuine happiness for two kids getting the chance to grow up with more family around them. It's honestly refreshing, in the middle of a media ecosystem built on manufacturing conflict, to scroll down and find people just being glad for a family. So let's zoom out, because this segment is a perfect little case study in how the Royal Rota actually operates. Step 1. Manufacture a controversy premise. Local traders threatened by Meghan's jam empire. That sounds vaguely newsworthy, but is really just an excuse to go fishing for a soundbite. Step 2. Go find that soundbite in the one place you're most confident it'll show up. A small business owner, on camera, put on the spot. Step 3. When the soundbite doesn't materialize, when the actual human being in front of you says something generous and kind instead, air it anyway, because a no-controversy segment still gets the clicks from a headline that promised controversy. Step 4. Quietly tuck the one genuinely important detail, active negotiations over royal protection, into the last few seconds, where most viewers have already mentally checked out. That's not journalism chasing truth. That's content chasing a pre-written narrative, and adjusting on the fly when reality doesn't cooperate. And squaddies, this is exactly why receipts matter. Because when you actually watch the full clip instead of the headline built around it, the story flips. The threat isn't Meghan showing up with a jar of marmalade. The threat, if there is one at all, is a media culture that would rather manufacture friction with a stranger's small business than sit with a genuinely warm human moment on camera. Here's what I'm watching going forward, and I want you watching it too. First, how that security conversation with the Home Secretary actually resolves, because that's the real gatekeeper on whether meaningful UK time is even possible for this family, regardless of postcode. Second, whether the Cotswolds theory holds up, or whether, like so many insider location guesses before it, it quietly evaporates the moment an actual announcement drops. And third, honestly, whether any other outlet has the nerve to run the same experiment. Because if you keep sending reporters out to find people who dislike Meghan, and they keep coming back with market traders offering her a stall, at some point the story writes itself. And it's not the story the Rota wants. At the end of the day, squaddies, this is one more piece of receipts for the file. A reporter went looking for resentment and came back with a man offering to sell Meghan's jam right next to his own. That's the real temperature check here, not the manufactured headline, not the will they won't they guessing game, but an ordinary British small business owner on camera, unscripted, saying, "Welcome back and bring the marmalade." If this kind of breakdown is exactly the receipts-based content you come here for, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, tap that bell so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment letting me know. Do you think the Cotswolds theory holds up, or is this just the next Rota rumour mill spinning in circles? I read every single one of them. Until next time, squaddies, stay sharp, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.